you both for joining us here on stage today. I think Imran outlined very nicely the opportunity in this market. You know, when he got on stage this morning and outlined the prospects for the fashion industry going forward this year, it sounded quite bleak, another year of slowing growth. That's not the case for e-commerce. But neither of you come from a fashion industry background, and so I wanted to start by having both of you talk through where you come from and what drew you to this opportunity. And Maria, if you would like to kick off.
Sure. So like Hayden, I also need to accept that I come from the management consulting world. I did that for about 5 years. And then I jumped into the digital world, started at Groupon. I did that for about 5 years. And then I discovered Depop actually before being part of the team because I was looking for some vintage clothes, and I was attracted by the fact that it was a mobile-first platform, which 5 years ago it was not that obvious. Many companies were transitioned from web into mobile, and so the fact that it was mobile first, the fact that they were using social media in a very smart way to build a community in a very, very organic way, I was really attracted by it. So that's why I joined.
And Max, you had a very strong e-commerce background, but not in fashion. So why make the jump into this industry?
So I previously built a company called Lazada in Southeast Asia, which was e-commerce, general merchandise. We were actually terribly bad at fashion, and it was one of my obsessions for a long time, and I really failed miserably at it. And after selling the company to Alibaba, I was looking for opportunities, moving back to Europe, and the Vestiaire opportunity came out of nowhere. I have to admit, I didn't know the company. I understood the concept of retail, but I've been in such a tunnel for the last 7-8 years that I didn't have time to digest it. But what fascinated me when I looked at the business and kind of engaged with it a bit more was the incredible emotional connection between the buyers and the sellers and the products and the brands, the engagement with the platform. And coming from Asia, this whole concept of community, social engagement, is such a big part of e-commerce. And I felt that, of course, you had pioneers like Depop driving that in Europe, but the rest of the e-commerce environment was still heavily kind of Amazon dogmatized about, search, add to cart, filter as efficiently as possible, the emotional connection of not much. So I felt, this was an incredibly exciting opportunity, and, living in a world where we all ask ourselves what to do, that seemed like an amazing opportunity to actually, run a business which core kind of fundamental is built on sustainability, is built on circularity. So, I looked at what the business was good at, and I think Vestiaire has an amazing fashion DNA, a great brand, amazing supply, and I looked at what could be improved with my background on scaling a tech company, and I thought the combination was an amazing one.
You touched on some very topical points there: sustainability, the power of community, all of which are kind of encapsulated in re-commerce. Is it that's helping to drive this market now? Or Maria, what is driving the growth we're seeing in resale at the moment?
So I think there's 3 things that are driving the industry. One is definitely a consumer behavior change towards secondhand. Again, 5 years ago, it was hard to believe that there was going to be, when you think about the next generation, more than 50% are already buying secondhand or are considering to buy secondhand in the near future. So this is something that 5 years ago was really hard to conceive. The second thing is the fact that secondhand is more accessible, and so our consumers are price sensitive by default. So allowing people to buy high quality items at a lower price is definitely something very attractive for consumers. And lastly, the proliferation of online platforms like Depop and Vestiaire Collective, it's allowing basically a concentration of inventory, digital inventory that allows consumers to have more choice. Yeah. In the case of Depop, I think the driver has been more driven by our core audience. So 90% of our users are under the age of 26, so very, very young. And they are looking for ways to socialize that are different to the ones of all other generations. So again, they primarily do it through social media because that's, they are mobile natives, and they do that also for the fashion taste. So for us, when we're looking at a community, you see that the fact that Depop is a social platform, social marketplace, it has basically made the business to grow a lot faster, and again in an organic way. And then secondly, the second thing that our audience wants is to make money. And so we are able to provide a platform that makes it very easy for them to sell those items and to make money as a result. So as a consequence, you have a very vibrant community of very engaged users that are super passionate about fashion, and they are actually, at the end of the day, making secondhand cool, which again contributes to making the resale platform, the resale to grow faster.
And Max, Vestiaire is a slightly different beast. It's a more luxury product. It's an older consumer. Is it the same drivers, or is it slightly different?
I think I'm really happy you remembered all those statistics, because I keep on forgetting them. But to add to that, I think there's one or 2 points which are allowing us as a business to thrive. I think the first one is that from the outside, the fashion industry in some sort of way mirrors what's happening in society, where the rich get richer and the luxury players are chasing them up the stairs. I use the example of being also a consultant in the past, having to buy suits. The choice back then was buying a Hugo Boss suit. I'm German, so that's what I have to wear as a German. And buying a Zegna suit, which I couldn't afford at the time. And at the time, a Zegna suit would cost like 850 euros, 900 euros. Now a Zegna suit costs 2,500 euros. And on the bottom end, you have, the parts of society which are struggling in fast fashion becoming cheaper and cheaper to serve those needs. And you have this forgotten middle class, which in the past could afford, a nice suit, a nice bag, a nice night in a nice hotel. But a lot of that has, become out of reach, because the industry defines itself by becoming more and more exclusive, and being in some sort of way hard to reach. So I think the opportunity for us is absolutely to differentiate ourselves and make a lot of these, beautiful products accessible in some sort of way, and finding the right owner for the right product at the right time in their life cycle. So I think that's to add on her points.
And I'm sure you'll both happily talk about how great this market is and the opportunities there for the next 15 minutes. But let's talk a little bit about the challenges as well. I think on the luxury side, everyone will be aware of the criticisms leveled against The RealReal recently in terms of the problems with their authentication problem. Max, with Vestiaire as sort of a core competitor in this space, how damaging are those allegations to the credibility of the entire luxury resale market, and how big a challenge is authentication?
I'm not going to hide behind, this was my competitor. I think you will find, the same criticism against Vestiaire out there. I think we do a lot to improve every single day, and we face our challenges being a fast-growing company to scale over every process that we make as much as we can. So we're not perfect. We try to be perfect. We try to improve every day. I think that the 2-3 things that I really want to point out is, for us, at our core is the trust in our community, and the trust that community gives to each other and towards us. And if things in these processes break down, we really see our role as a platform to step in and say, okay, something went wrong, we'll take care of it. And the consumers need to reach out to us, and we will fix it. And we try to learn from every one of these mistakes, every single time they happen. And I think the second one, is that we have this community, we have people we trust, these people have a history on us, and I think it's our job as a platform in the future to make that history much more transparent, and bring people together. But let's not distract from the things that we do well. I think it's very easy for new business models like ours, who grow like the speed that we do, to point out the small things which go wrong. I would love people to really focus on the good we bring. I think we are, fundamentally at heart, a business which does something about sustainability and circularity. And that's a lot more than, trucking in 40 trees to a fashion show and saying that's sustainability.
But isn't authentication central to the business model? Selling real luxury items is core.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's the core goal of what we're trying to achieve. And, we've been very forthcoming in the past and will continue to be and work as close as possible with the brands in getting better at it. There will be technologies in the future which allow us to improve these processes. And we're asking for a helping hand any given time of the day.
And have you felt any fallout since the real news broke, pushback from brands or from
Not
buyers or
really. I
sellers?
think, I've not been in this business for that long. I've been here for a year. And even in this year, I think I just started working at Vestiaire and the Business of Fashion report came out like 2 days later. It made me feel really good about my choice. I've started meeting brands. I think it's a bit the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some are very forward, some are hesitant and kind of wait and see mode, and some are, a bit more defensive. But I think that is really changing. I think in the end, it's not what I want and what they want, it's what the consumers want. And I think it's really our job to continue educating consumers of the benefits of the model. And we are making these wonderful products accessible to a much wider audience. And I think there's big opportunities for both sides, and it's a win-win situation in my view.
And I'm going to stop picking on you now and turn to Maria.
It's my turn.
Imran referenced the piece we did last week
Yep.
about the challenges that you guys have had with your community and managing that. Community is a really important value driver.
Definitely.
How do you manage this issue? What are you going to do about it going forward?
So yeah, given the fact that we are a social marketplace and that we have a large amount of users, we're talking about 15 million users that are exchanging messages on a daily basis, there's obviously a room for things to go wrong. And so, whether it's from the transaction point of view or whether it's for inappropriate behavior. And so for us, trust, it's a critical thing that we need to maintain in the platform. And we've got absolutely zero tolerance to inappropriate behavior. Now, the way to solve this, well, first of all, there's a clear acknowledgement that this is something that needs to be policed, because ultimately, if you don't, things like this happen. And it all starts by having a robust set of terms and conditions, having very clear guidelines, so what's cool, what's not cool, and then having a moderation team that basically, from a proactive and reactive way, can monitor what's happening in the platform. And so, because of the size and also because of the as I mentioned, the majority of our users are very young, it is very important that we do it properly and in a scalable way. And so I'm myself personally very, very committed to making sure that we continue to develop those tools. This is not a project that you start and finish tomorrow. This is an ongoing exercise because problems get more sophisticated, and therefore you need to continue to invest on it. So I'm a firm believer that with technology, we're able to identify these things and make sure that they basically don't happen, because even if it happens one time, it's one time too many.
So do you see that being primarily a technological solution? Because, you look at many of the longer running and bigger social media platforms, they're grappling with this issue too.
Yeah.
They haven't found a technological solution. Like you said, Depop has a lot of very, very young users on it. Is it good enough to say we're going to wait for the point at which we can develop the technology to manage it? Do there need to be more restrictive controls, parental controls?
Yeah, we're already using those technology, those tools to identify through machine learning what sort of messages are inappropriate. We also have the community; they have the possibility to report that activity when it happens, so that we can really quickly filter those messages out or ban those users. So we already have those tools in place. Now, the question is, are they good enough? And what are we doing to make sure that they are as effective as possible? And this is something that is just an ongoing work. And it's important to continue to develop, to continue to be innovative about those tools so that they can be as effective as possible.
And I think, just to jump in here, to challenge that notion that the big social players, have not figured out the technology to stop this. I think they have a lot of technologies and that they could do much more. So I think it really comes down to the commitment of the platform, what is okay and what is not
So
okay.
you're saying the big players aren't committing to stopping it?
That's what you said, but I'm implying.
Just
that I
reading
think
between the
there's a
lines
lot of-
here. Well, but you also want to grow Vestiaire's community
Yes.
significantly. So how are you looking at this issue?
I think we are a slightly more controlled marketplace than Depop is. Every product that goes online, we curate it before. Every account that is being created, we review the account, we review the pictures on the account, and we, handhold the process more, which is, more expensive. But I think it's the core part of what we think is a curated marketplace, whether it's first-hand or second-hand. And we really, see the community here as an opportunity, much more to give the buyers, the sellers, the brands a voice publicly versus privately. And I think it should be out in the open versus kind of behind closed doors. And the commitment is absolutely there to in the end, the bottom line is, are you as a platform willing to lose sales if people don't act according with your rules? And if that answer is not a clear yes, I think then you have values issues that you need to, deal with yourself. But, I think from our side, community or not, we will not tolerate that kind of behavior on our platform.
So going forward, that will be zero tolerance policy.
Yes.
I think when you guys talk about community, it's very interesting because what you are both building in terms of community is something most brands would kill for. As you go forward, how do you see the re-commerce space evolving? How do you see it competing with the primary market? And how do you see brands' attitudes to re-commerce changing?
Go ahead.
Do you want me to go?
Sure.
I think it's a massive opportunity. I think in the end, fashion is more than the last season. I think there's a lot of, fashion lovers out there who want to define their own style. They, in some sort of way enjoy the treasure hunt, Alibaba's cave, whatever you want to call it, to find that unique piece somewhere out there. And the life cycle of a product doesn't end at the primary sale. There's, a long, story afterwards to be told. And the way that consumers act after the primary sale is interesting. The way the prices develop afterwards is interesting. The way trends come back, every couple of years or decades is interesting. So we sit on a huge amount of very, very exciting information. And from our side, that community absolutely wants to include the ecosystem. It wants to give the brands the chance to engage with that community, to give them the tools, to share their message and be part of that ecosystem. So the goal is to work towards that as much as we can.
So the brands who are legally opposing some of the resale sites have got it wrong and they should embrace this.
Well, I'm not being sued yet. Maybe you know something I don't know, but I hope they won't. I think they so far have been very constructive. I think they're in a kind of getting to know us phase. And that process sometimes takes a bit longer. Sometimes it's a bit faster. But in the end, it's the consumers which are incredibly excited about this. In the end, we're trying to serve the consumers as much as we can.
We are at time, Maria. You get the final word. What is the future of resale?
My answer is not going to be in 3 seconds. Sorry. So I think the future of resale, obviously particularly when I think about resale, I think about Depop, and I see that we have the opportunity to play beyond the resale. So traditionally we think about resale as sort of the last piece in the fashion circle. But if you think about it, when you think about like the activity that is happening on Depop, you see these super young creative people that are basically building up businesses that are actually creating trends. they are actually transforming the fashion industry. So they have the potential to play a bigger role in the industry. If you think about how the next generation is being influenced right now, it's not with magazines anymore. It's with social media, it's with people around them that they are influenced with, and that it's transforming the way people are thinking about what needs to be created in the first place, whether it's because of sustainability or whether it's because you get access to those kinds of trends that are being again created by the community. So I really believe that resale has the potential to play a bigger role in the fashion ecosystem.
So perhaps a more positive note than some of the other talks we've hit on
Hopefully,
today.
yeah.
Thank you both very much.
Yeah.